Welcome back into the GSMC Sports Podcast. We just wrapped up both of the play-in tournament games and are now going to be moving on to the news that just broke within the past hour about Jontay Porter receiving a lifetime ban from the NBA. This is something that has sort of been circulating for the past couple months or so. I'd say probably closer to a month, but the Jontay Porter saga is centered around the fact that he was being accused of potentially manipulating NBA games in terms of gambling and violating the league's policy surrounding gambling. There was some unusual action on Jontay Porter prop bets that were very heavily profitable for the bettors, and this is a situation for Jontay Porter who, frankly, should not be the biggest gainer in terms of the most profitable bet in any circumstance, where a lot of NBA fans probably didn't know who Porter was headed into this saga because of the fact that, he was a 2-year player. He's been in the G League for a lot of the year, was playing for the Raptors more down the stretch of the regular season because of the fact that frankly, the Raptors were not in a point of contention anymore. They had sort of thrown the season away, and he was, getting these minutes for the Raptors, but even still under 15 minutes per game. And it was very fishy from the beginning that there was this type of betting action on him. So the NBA has been conducting this investigation against him and these irregularities in some of the betting action, and they found that he is responsible for a handful of different instances where some people that he was close to were the ones that were the beneficiaries of these prop bets for Jontay Porter, that he himself was actually doing some of the gambling based off of the using his confidants' accounts and such. And really what Adrian Wojnarowski pointed to was the fact that he actually bet against a Raptors game, which was really damning for him. And this is a situation where a lot of people are sort of calling that the fact that specifically, I think that the biggest comparison from this situation to another in the NBA and the way that the different punishments are being laid out is the fact that Miles Bridges got a 1-year suspension and that Jontay Porter is getting a lifetime ban, and people are trying to draw the comparisons between the two because obviously what Miles Bridges did from a humanity standpoint is obviously much, much worse than Jontay Porter betting on some basketball games. And yet, for the league themselves, if they want to stay credible, they can't have this door open for the idea of NBA players sort of foiling the game. We talked about this in depth when the story was first coming out, but the fact that the MLB really struggled with gambling when they were coming up in the early 1900s, and they have placed some lifetime bans as well for some notable members of MLB history. I think that this is just a situation where, yes, I understand that it's not like this is the worst thing to do in the world as far as a crime that an individual can commit. I don't even think it's being classified as a crime, but from a credibility standpoint of the NBA, they sort of have no choice but to make sure that they set an example for a player here. And I mean, there are people who disagree with the fact that NBA and professional athletes aren't allowed to gamble. Frankly, it's just one of the rules for these leagues. And yes, I understand that there is a level of advertisement and sponsorships that these gambling companies provide to these professional leagues. So why can't the athletes use them? Well, they're actually making money off of these sponsorships and deals that the league generates more revenue because of the fact that they are sponsored by these regulated sports books. And, sports betting is something that's going to go on. It's been happening for, centuries, and nothing's going to stop that situation. The fact that it's being regulated, though, does make these types of situations a lot easier to actually track down. And again, Jontay Porter in this situation, I just think it's a stupid thing to do. You're on a two-way contract. It's not like he was desperate for money. I at least would imagine. I don't know what his personal life is like necessarily, but his father, I believe, I don't know if he still is, but was the head coach of Missouri basketball for a handful of years at least. He's brothers with Michael Porter Jr., who is one of the premier players in the NBA, and this was just an idiotic thing to do. He was still making hundreds of thousands of dollars while playing on this contract that doesn't even make him a full-time NBA player, and he's now thrown away his future. It's not like he didn't understand what the rules are, and to some level, he had to have known that what he was doing was wrong when it comes to basically subbing himself out of some games because of the fact that he subbing himself out with an eye injury and an undisclosed illness. He knew that he was rupturing the integrity of the game in these instances, and I just don't really understand how people can empathize with him that much. And listen, I understand not everything in life, frankly, is fair. And whether you think Miles Bridges should be playing in the NBA or not, that shouldn't have an effect on how long the suspension/ban is for Jontay Porter. Two wrongs don't make a right. As much of a cliche as that is, it's just a fact. And both things can be true. That Miles Bridges maybe shouldn't be playing in the NBA because of his domestic violence instance, but also Jontay Porter shouldn't be allowed to be a member of a professional sports league when he is caught by manipulating the sports books that are major partners with the league. And whether they were major partners or not, it's essentially throwing games. And Jontay Porter is not the, high level player that he can have he doesn't have the weight to be able to fully throw a game, but at the same time, the precedent of it just needs to be set that the NBA is serious. Yes, there is so much sports gambling that is going on in the world today, but that doesn't mean that the reputation of the game and the leagues themselves can be sort of at risk because of this reckless behavior. And Jontay Porter isn't the only one who has been only professional athlete that's been caught gambling as of late. There was Kayshon Boutte of the New England Patriots. There was Calvin Ridley, who missed a year as well when he was, I think it was when he was with the Falcons into his stint with the Jacksonville Jaguars. And, these instances happen, but it's especially dumb to actually bet on the league that you are a member of and to the team that you're a member of as well. And it's not even like a situation, I'm totally blanking on the MLB, Pete Rose, I believe it is. The fact that he is one of the all-time hits leaders, he was a very well dignified manager in the MLB. He received a lifetime ban because of the fact that he was betting on his teams, and in that case he was betting on them to win. The idea of playing in an NBA game, and I'm not sure if he actually got minutes. There still hasn't been all too much details on that instance in particular. Just following along here as the news broke just before the show that Adrian Wojnarowski has been tweeting out here. The NBA released a statement as well, but until we're going to keep you updated, of course, on the full details as they're released, but the fact that Porter would be a member of a franchise and then choose to bet against them is just a ludicrous thing to do, and he should be. This is a justified lifetime ban in my eyes, and I really do feel like I struggle to empathize with this type of a situation. But let me know in the comments section whether or not you agree. Again, I understand sometimes the consistencies when it comes to, really we see this in the NFL all the time, but there is at least a semi-recent example in the NBA surrounding the Bridges situation. But I think they pretty much had no choice but to ban him for life. We'll see whether or not he is ever able to sort of appeal this decision. Either way, it's Jontay Porter who was on a two-way contract. I feel like the most likely scenario is he's going to be disgraced from the game and he won't ever get another chance in the NBA, but we will see. On that note, though, we are going to be taking our final break of the show, and when we come back on the other side, I want to dive into some WNBA talk with the draft taking place on Monday, sort of breaking down how that all played out, as well as touching on some of the conversations regarding the contract situation of Caitlin Clark headed into her rookie season. But stick with us and we will dive into all of that next.